right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Brandy with Here, the podcast. When I tell y'all I am excited today about my guest, I am excited. I'm holding myself back from asking her questions online, but there is so much to talk about. So before I say anything else, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people who you is that you do.
Okay, I'm Auzerais. I am currently on sabbatical, but I had a bakery called Blondery. We were located in upstate New York. Right now, I'm sharing my unfiltered thoughts on Substack, YouTube, and TikTok.
Yes, if you are wondering what those unfiltered thoughts are, look no further than the comments because I'm going to link everywhere she is on social so that you can follow her. All right, the listeners know what's coming, but you do not. So at this time, I'm going to ask you 10 random questions, okay? And I want you to answer them as quickly as you can. Don't linger too long, kind of whatever thought comes to mind. And this is just a way for the audience to get to know you a little bit better than the conversation that we're going to have. So, no pressure. All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, question one. One misconception people have about you.
That I mean.
A hill that you're willing to die on.
Dogs deserve to be on planes, not in the carrier. That's just what I'm thinking about right now.
Hello. All right, a book you think everyone should read.
Ooh, The Little Red Book of Selling by Jeffrey Gitomer.
Oh my God, that used to be behind me on my shelf, now over here somewhere.
Everything is sale. Everything is sale.
All right, what is your go-to comfort food?
Mexican food.
Anything in particular?
Yes, enchiladas from La Piñata, the San Leandro location.
Yeah, okay. One album you would listen to on a road trip, just one.
Ooh, Summer Walker, Finally Over It.
Sure, okay.
Whatever the first one was.
Yeah, I said I love Summer. Best advice you've ever been given?
If you want to take the island, you have to burn the bridges. No,
Ooh.
burn the boats. Burn the boats. If you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats.
Okay, the last person you blocked and why?
Well, somebody on Threads talking about I should just stay in my country if it's so hard for me to not procrastinate packing. Like 5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago. That you've been meaning to or wanting to say, but you haven't had the opportunity.
I'm about to say it, writing my script right now, that Africans and Caribbeans have to be a lot more careful these days and not stepping on Black Americans' toes. You guys have to be more careful. I get it. I get what we're saying, but I think it's coming off the wrong way. And I think some people mean it to come off that way, but some people don't. So you got to be more careful.
Okay, my last question is going to be interesting because our conversation today, but if you had your life to start completely over, but you could take one thing with you from your current life into a new life, tangible or intangible, what would it be and why?
My mama, because she is who I am today.
I love that. This is really good answers. You were ready. You
thank you.
Didn't stumble at all. Most people I like to ask questions. Okay, I'm going to touch on some of those things that you mentioned, but just to get us started, tell us a little bit about your background. What was it like for you growing up? Where did you grow up? And, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then my parents took me to UC Davis. We drove down. She had this big binder of like everything I would have to do, all the classes and what it would cost, all these things. And I got there and they said something about like 8 years of school. And I was like, never mind. But I appreciate my parents making that investment and making a trip out of it. I was very young then. I was probably like 12. But then I grew up in the Bay Area. My family was a family of restaurateurs. So all of my aunts ran a location of my grandmother's restaurant. We had up to, I think, 10 or 12 restaurants at one point.
What was the restaurant?
Everett & Jones Barbecue.
My God, stop it.
Yes. So I grew up around that. I grew up around strong women. I only have one uncle. And unfortunately, he was on drugs most of my life. He's clean now. He's been clean for several years. But he was on drugs most of my life. So I only saw women working really, really hard in the restaurant industry. So I think unintentionally, I ended up at Johnson & Wales in the pastry arts program just because I had seen that. But it ended up being, now that I have closed my bakery, I realized that that was just a means to an end for me to become an entrepreneur, essentially. I was always be an entrepreneur. I didn't have to go into food, but that's all I knew. But now I'm like, oh, I could do a lot of things. I could do a few different kinds of business. Don't have to be in food. Yeah.
Okay, so for people who are listening who are not from the Bay Area, Trader Joe's is like a staple. I cannot tell you anybody in the Bay Area that has not eaten there, that does not call it their favorite barbecue restaurant. It's like, you know, if you're in Chicago, then it's like Harold's. If you're in New York, it's like, I don't know, Junior's Cheesecake or something. I don't know. It's a big deal. So coming from that family, I would say it would be almost expected that you would go into restaurants of some sort. Was that ever directly told to you? Like, you are going to grow up and go into family business. This we do as a family.
My mom was like, you know, you don't have to do this, right? You know, it's hard work, right? Like, she has said that over and over and over my entire life. My mom actually ended up running the Hayward location, and she also was a paralegal. So she had a legal office right next to the restaurant. So I saw my mom doing two very big jobs. But she's still in law. So she doesn't work with the restaurant anymore. She's strictly in law. She went to law school, all the things. So she's always told me, like, you ain't got to do this. Like, see, I'm not doing it. I'm not. She's like, you don't have to do this. So yeah.
So then what about what you saw growing up? You know, you grew up around entrepreneurs. What about that lifestyle? This is for me.
I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I really enjoy having sovereignty and autonomy. And that's essentially what I saw my aunts be able to have. So although, you know, they were under the tutelage of my grandmother, who was the matriarch of the family and ruled with an iron fist, they still had a lot of fun. And I just remember them, like, they would get into it, but we always had to stay out of it. It wasn't our business. If they was fighting, their sisters, they could fight.
In the child's place.
Yeah, very much so that. So I just always remember them having fun, and they brought us along for the ride. And I was like, that's the kind of life I want to live. That's the only life I knew that Black people, Black women could live. And I realize now, like, that's a privilege to have been able to see that and aspire to that.
Yeah, definitely a privilege. Not everyone grows up with a family or in a space that has that level of freedom and sovereignty that you talked about. Did you ever have a 9-to-5 job, and what was that like versus your entrepreneur life?
I started working at the restaurant probably at like 8 years old, taking tickets. Because my mom ran the Hayward location. If you guys remember, if you're from the Bay, Hayward didn't have like a waitress. So you guys came to the counter, ordered the food. I was there on a little step stool, taking your order. And remember, it wasn't square for the registers back then. It was like getting in numbers. Got to remember how much it costs. So yeah, I was doing that, taking change. And I mean, I think, I started working very early after that. I worked for a family friend at the Berkeley Flea Market. She sold soaps. But I've always worked. And I think my first big girl job was out of college. It was Aramark. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I worked at Chipotle during college. And they let me like transfer my job back and forth because I went to school in Rhode Island, and I would come home. I worked at Valley Chipotle because Chipotle was very new then. So yeah,
margaritas.
Exactly. Yes, when they had the margaritas, and I was old enough to drink them, but I remember what it tastes like.
Okay, so you were working at Chipotle, you worked at Aramark. What did you like or dislike about 9-to-5 life that you were like, okay, I'm back. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's for me.
I mean, what did I like? I didn't like anything about it. Everything about me does not fit with that. It's always been a struggle for me to work a 9-to-5. And I think just as time went on, I realized I had to make a way. So it was like dealing with corporate people, right? So I come from, again, none of my aunts, I don't think any of them went to college except for my mother. They were very, I guess not media trained, right? So I wasn't used to having to code switch or deal with like white politics and office setting or white managers. Like I had never dealt with any of that. My manager was always my aunt or another Black person. So it was really tough for me to like get used to that. And after getting fired a couple times, I was like, okay, maybe I need to really figure out like how to make things shake for myself out here, especially when I moved to New York. I was like, this is
Yeah, yeah. You know, that's so true. My was also an entrepreneur.
mm-hmm.
We had this tax business on the side, and so she would always do that. So I would help her, you know, manage her files, and would, you know, print out back in the day when you could print out your business cards, print out business cards for her, and so I always saw that there was an alternative. And what I experienced as a kid is that someone who had a 9 to 5 would come home from work and complain about their job. And then on the weekends, or when they had time, they would do the thing that they really love. And I always tell myself, I'm going to do things. I have to go to the job. But, you know, when you're out in the world, sometimes, and a lot of my listeners can relate, you start a thing, right? And you're like, this isn't working out. I need a job to make ends meet because I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills and pay my rent and go back into cycles. But I feel like people who are meant to be entrepreneurs, what happens is you always feel a tug, the thing that you're supposed to be doing, right? So maybe you get fired, maybe you go to work and you're like, I can't function in this space. It's hard for me to try to coach and be around these people, and I can't be myself because of kind of where you need to be. For you, you know, having all these jobs, when did you decide to open up a bakery, and what was the process like? And also, did your family give you any kind of support in doing so?
Yeah, so I decided to start selling the blondies online in 2017. My family was actually, I moved to New York in 2015. For those 2 years, I would ship blondies back home for the holiday season. Eventually, it got to be too many orders. I come from a very large family. I have 7 aunts, so I have tons of cousins. And the orders got to be too much. And I'm like, let me just open a website just so they can like place their orders through there and I can organize it better. Well, they told all their friends that I was opening a website. So this is family. This is like family friends. These are people that I kind of know. But I ended up selling over 200 or 500 orders, I think it was, in like 2 weeks. I forget. It was an absurd amount of orders to be making out of my 4-bedroom, 2-bath Brooklyn apartment that I shared with 3 other roommates. It was too much, but I got through it and I was like, okay, this is a business. So I just bootstrapped it from there. Like it wasn't like a steady, like a straight process. You know what I mean? Like it was more so, oh, this happened. I got an order from Netflix that, you know, injected a lot of cash into the.
If you are listening to this podcast as a non-subscriber, you are missing out. If you head over to my Substack, brandywashere.substack.com, you can become a free or paid subscriber to continue to support the podcast. You'll get my daily musings, you'll get written articles on personal, professional development, as well as some of my own lived experience and stories. You'll get access to future workshops and opportunities to work with me. So if you haven't already, please go to brandywashere.substack.com and become a subscriber today. Don't forget to say hello when you do.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, I was making the blondies out of my home, and it just kind of organically grew into a storefront over the course of 8 years, basically. Mm-hmm. And support looked like, okay, so unfortunately, my cousins and I aren't that close anymore. Mm-hmm. So the support from my family, my immediate family, yes. Like my mom, dad, brother, sisters, yes. But eventually I think I ended up, which is a good problem to have, to be honest, is I ended up pricing myself out of what my family was willing to pay, basically. And then we also weren't cool no more. So it forced me to develop some sales skills to get other people to start buying my product. Yeah. I think that that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs like are like, oh, my family's not supporting me. Like, yeah, good. Because now you have to figure out how to share your story in a way that's compelling for other people to purchase your product. So yeah, support, like I would try to get like my aunt to invest and stuff, and like unfortunately she gave me the runaround and it's not good, but yeah, like I ended up doing really well for myself anyway, so it worked out.
Yeah. You said 2 really good things just then, and I want to go back to something that you said even earlier. One of the things that you did, I think, well in your business is you kind of focused on one thing from the start. Yeah. Some people are like, I want to open up a bakery, I'm going to do cookies, cakes, cake pops, and I want to do birthday parties, all that stuff. Like, what made you want to focus on the one thing as opposed to maybe doing something different or having a variety of different offerings?
Well, here's the thing. Blondery was my first business that took off, but I've had other bakeries, from my home since I was little. I've always baked because everyone else in my family didn't bake. In fact, they still get their pastries for the restaurants from some outside bakery because no one bakes. Everyone is a great cook, but no one bakes. So I did do that. I did have cakes and cupcakes and custom cakes. I did all of that stuff. And I just realized, especially when I moved to New York, I can't ship that stuff. Like, I tried it. I tried shipping frozen biscuits. I tried shipping pie dough and cookie dough, and all of that was very expensive. It was pre-Goldbelly. Goldbelly wasn't even thought of. So I didn't know about dry ice and like doing all of that. Like, I didn't know any of that. So I had to ship a product that shipped really well, basically. So that ended up narrowing my focus down to just the blondies. And that's the thing, that was my hero product. That's what people came to me for. So yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is, and this comes up a lot when people start businesses, you see people post and they'll say, my family and friends are supporting my business. And I always say, well, they're not your audience, right?
Totally.
You don't start a business to have your family and friends be your primary audience. You have to, as a business owner, go out and find your customer, right? Yep. And that is the part that people really struggle with, because then you have to admit that you really don't know how. So when you said something, you said, I had to learn some sales skills. How did you go about learning that? And who did you go to anyone in particular? What did you do to say, okay, I'm running a business now. I need to think like a business and figure out what skills I need to make this successful?
I was reading, and honestly, I've been talking about this on Substack, and on YouTube. Freelancing is the best gateway drug to entrepreneurship because it forces you to have some of the responsibility of entrepreneurship with a little bit of a steady paycheck. A little bit. So I was freelancing, I would call it freelancing, by cleaning houses in New York. So I had clients, although I was working through an app called TaskRabbit, I still had clients that I was responsible to and had to learn, especially with cleaning somebody's house, child. Like that's a whole nother ballgame of customer service you kind of have to learn. Some of them luckily were just Airbnb, so the client wouldn't be there, but most of the times the client was there. And I had to learn to interact with them from a place of authority, not of an employee, right? Because otherwise you get ran over.
Right.
So I learned very quickly, I hit my head a bunch of times, but eventually I got the hang of learn how to talk to people, learn how to read people. And then I also was doing farmers markets. So I got to understand my customer on a more in-depth level. Like, I could see now, who's buying my product and what questions are they asking? And I would literally write a tick mark every time someone asked me, did I have a nut-free option? Or did I have a gluten-free option? Or where I was located? Or did I have a physical storefront? All those things matter at the end of the day because they build into the story that I'm telling on social,
Yeah. That definitely makes a difference for sure. Tell me about your experience moving from online to having your brick and mortar. I know we could probably spend the whole podcast just talking about that experience, but what was the transition like? What do you, what helped you make the decision? Because I feel like a lot of people, feel comfortable. I was reading something on LinkedIn earlier today where people were like, I'm never going back into the office. I will work remotely forever. So people are feeling like home is where it's at. I'm just going to sell stuff online. So what made you want to have a brick and mortar? And I feel like people are always asking when you sell stuff online, like, where are you located? That sort of thing. But
it's very annoying.
What made you want to have a brick and mortar, and what was that transition like for you?
Well, I think let's back up a little bit, because you just said something I want to point out to people is that it doesn't have to be home or brick and mortar. There is an in between. So I was actually renting kitchen space from kitchens that were either closed or non-functional and the owner just didn't care. Like, there's so many ways to get around not having a home business, but also not having a brick and mortar. So I was in the middle, and that's where I thrive, child. Like, I was making so much money because the overhead is less, but I'm still able to have that validity and be able to hire a team that comes in, they work, they leave, they're not coming into my home. There's so many benefits to that. Yeah. But transitioning from home to the rental kitchens wasn't hard because of COVID. So everyone had closed their restaurants and they needed money. So I was like, hey, like I need space because my business is taking off. I was already positioned to ship. I was shipping all over the country. That's all I did. So it was perfect timing for me to capitalize on that momentum. So a lot of people were open to me renting the kitchen space. That doesn't mean that I had like just a plethora of options because I did have a budget in mind, but I was able to make ends meet and make things shake just from renting kitchen space. We ended up being kicked out of one of our shared kitchen spaces because of Hurricane Ida. Basically what happened is we had been renting for almost a year. We had renewed the lease. So we drummed up another contract that was for another year with the bakery that I think is now also closed. But they had a space in Greenpoint. They weren't using the back of their kitchen. They only used the front of the house. So we had set hours that we could go in, we could bake, we could store our things there. We shipped from there. We had the whole downstairs was us. And yeah, we worked really well together. The rent was affordable. It was like I was riding my bike to work. It was great. Hurricane Ida hits, their production space in Bushwick floods, and the owner, I guess, did not have insurance. So she was going to be either out of her business or she needed to move back into the space we were renting. And she had not signed the contract yet, but I had signed it. So it was literally a freak like timing situation. I don't believe that she was being malicious. However, she did only give me 8 days to find another place. I should have put my foot down and said, no, I need more time to move my business. At the time, my business was already doing $500K in sales. We had went from making $14,000 a year just by myself to $500K in 2 years. So that was a very big operation to just move. And I think Hurricane Ida hit like, what was it? End of August, beginning of September. So we're heading right into the busy holiday season. Really bad time to move. I should have taken more time, but I took it. I crowdfunded. That was my first time crowdfunding. I ended up raising like $20K in like a week. It was crazy because people were just, we was all rich during the pandemic. We were all very rich. It wasn't on GoFundMe. It was strictly like Zelle, Cash App, Venmo. And I tell people that because that matters. People think that you have to do it through these platforms. You don't. The argument has to be very compelling. But anyway, I ended up in Peekskill in another rental kitchen space. And that one worked for a while until it didn't. At the same time, another space near that space opened up that had a storefront component that was the same amount that we were paying for just the rental. And I was like, I guess we're getting a retail storefront. And so it wasn't like I had been looking for a retail store place. I was always looking for a factory. The name Blondery is blondie and factory. So Blondery. So I always thought we were going to stay e-com and just grow. But I did get annoyed when people at farmers markets or, clients would be like, oh, do you have a storefront? Like, no, because they automatically assume that you're baking from home, right? So I would say like, no, we don't have a storefront, but I have a kitchen that I rent out. And I think that there's legitimacy in people's minds that come from a storefront, but I should have just said like, oops, I don't know what happened. I should have just said like, whatever, like it doesn't matter what people think. It matters like, is my business making money or not?
Right. And you were making money. You said you went from 50K to 500K. So what did you put in place that helped you scale to that level?
Ooh, I would say it was just more so I was already positioned to ship. That's it. Like sometimes business is just luck. It's just being ready at the right time. Like I was following some instincts, I believe. I was very hard-headed in a way, like stubborn. And that I did not want to go into grocery. I did not want to open a storefront. I was like, no, we're gonna get really good at shipping this product because I saw my peers, right? Like there's Fairy Tale Brownies and Harry and David and Cheryl's Cookies. There's businesses that don't have storefronts that are able to service, not only B2B, but also these B2C clients. And I think that that's the track that I wanted for my business. It would have taken, now looking back, I realized that I needed the capital. Like I thought that I could bootstrap that to what it could become. Like, we can get into, that's a whole nother conversation, but I needed the capital to get to that point. So I had to go storefront because I needed to diversify the revenue because we were running out of customers that we could serve at the base I was at. So I needed to either invest money into ads, basically, a lot of money into ads to get some of those customers, or hire a sales team that's going to be on foot going to these offices trying to get corporate orders. And I just didn't have the money to do that. Yeah.
You bring up a good point. Before I say more about that, I do want to say that I can attest to your customer service and your shipping. A friend of mine, like we were talking about kind of how we got to know each other, but a friend of mine had a birthday and she ordered from you. So we're out in LA, right? All the way out in LA mind you, New York, shipping from New York to LA. So if you never made that journey by flight or any other kind of way, it's not close, right?
No.
So when she, presented this wonderful, delicious dessert, you would have thought like she ran down the street to the bakery to pick it up. It was packaged so well. Nothing was like lopsided or turned over. It was fresh and it tasted delicious. So I don't know how exactly what all it took for you to achieve that, but quality, top tier. Okay, top tier. So
he's definitely breaking some rules.
The process. I just want to let y'all know on the receiving end. Well done.
Thank you. We were breaking some rules. We were vacuum sealing without a vacuum seal license. Hey, I was willing to take that chance.
Right. Appreciate it.
But also, I didn't know when I first started that it was illegal to vacuum seal things without a vacuum seal variant.
Who would know that?
But then when I found out there was an opportunity to change it, but I'm like, will I get an F on my like food service certificate if I don't, if I don't get the variants? They're like, no, we'll just mark you off a point. Mark the point, because I'm going to get this product to these people fresh.
Right. The things you learn in business, I tell you, there's always something small that makes such a big difference and causes such a headache. But I want to talk about this capital thing now. You have been engaging a lot on social media just about the lack of opportunities and awareness that people have about how businesses actually get funded and what it actually takes to run a successful business. And for people who are listening to the podcast, you have probably seen me engage in some of the commentary as well. And that Black women especially often hear, just apply for a grant, or you need to get a mentor, or why don't you take out a small business loan? And in theory, all of these things sound really, really great. They're wonderful, right? A grant, someone's just going to give you money to run your business, and you just find that perfect match mentor that's going to take you to the next level. But in actuality, there are a lot of barriers that prevent Black women especially from growing their business beyond a certain point. And you've talked a lot about this on socials. I don't want you to rehash everything because I definitely want people to go to your socials and check out that commentary that you have, on Threads and LinkedIn and what have you, but just kind of shed some light on what you personally experienced through that process and about the difficulty in scaling your business and sustaining it.
Yeah, well, I received over $120,000 in grants during the lifetime of my business. Let's start there. I've been a part of so many mentorship and cohort programs. I've had conversations with angel investors, capitalist teams, Ps, and some of them, I approached, some of them approached me. But I think what ultimately, I believe what we're going to see in the next few years is probably a renaissance of sorts in which Black women are fed up with being told that the idea isn't good enough, or they're not the person to run the business, or the market isn't large enough, or whatever other excuse. And we're just going to call them on their bluff, right? Because businesses, and I'm trying to figure out today, maybe you can help me, Brandy, figure this out, but like my grandmother started her restaurant with a $500 loan from her best friend. Why do we need money these days? But also I want to give this, she also had 9 kids that she didn't really pay to work. So the labor was free.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. She put a roof over their head. She's like, y'all, you my kids. This is when you go to school, and then you come work at the restaurant after you get off school. And then when they got older, they get a little salary, but it wasn't crazy, right? She would buy them a house, but she wouldn't necessarily raise their salary. You know what I mean? So I think what I'm trying to understand is like, irregardless of just Black women, why do businesses need money? And I think that has to do with just the scale of and globalization of the world, is that when the internet was introduced, we were able to service way more people, right? So businesses started competing on that level. Just like when the railroad was introduced, they were able to service way more people. It's the same kind of thing that has happened. And now with AI, you're able to service way more people because you're quicker. We're getting smarter. We're getting quicker. But I don't understand, I guess, why do we need so much money to be able to afford to own a business that has a storefront that can support our families and support ourselves? Why can't it just be that anymore? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know? Like, I don't know
the answer, but I do feel like that people sort of negate and really downplay small successful businesses, right? Like there's a girl here in Chicago, she hand paints hats. They're amazing. And she was at, what's this thing called? Black Girl Art Show, right? And the curators of that event said, hey, we want you to go city to city with us. They do like 10 cities. And she declined because she said the amount of product I would have to produce, right? And she is single-handedly painting these hats. It just doesn't make sense, right? It's not something that I could keep up with. And I don't want to, screen print the hats or however, you do hats. And so I think that we kind of turn our nose at things that are small and successful, thinking that if something is successful, it has to grow, it has to expand, and it has to build. And sometimes we outpace ourselves, right? Like I'm thinking about Pinky Cole, who it seemed like at one point in her life, every month she was opening a new Slutty Vegan, right? A new city, a new thing. And it was exciting because so many people wanted to experience this thing, right? But like, I love going back home to the Bay and going to Everett and Jones because I know I can't get it here in Chicago, right? And I know that the location that I like to go to, I know I'm going to probably see the same people. I know that my item is still going to be on the menu. They're not, changing based on these things. And those things can still be successful without them having a location in China and New York and all these different places. So I think sometimes we try to outpace because we're like, people are interested. Now we have to go worldwide. We have to be everywhere. And we don't necessarily have the infrastructure to sustain that level of growth over time that we want to.
Also, I have a question though.
Yeah.
Is that her full-time job, the hat lady?
It is her full-time job.
And does she have children or like a husband?
I don't think she has children.
So I think I hear what you're saying. I wrote it down because I think that is a real thing in that, like, if your business is successful and it's able to sustain you and you're not like stressed and, you have a quality of life that you enjoy, that is amazing. And that's such a blessing. I do think there's also another realm possibly where it's literally impossible because the demand maybe is so high that you can't meet it with the supply, and therefore you end up losing customers. And eventually the business dies because you're stressed out, you can't compete with the bigger players, you can't optimize your production. I have a friend who makes these cute little dresses for little girls and boys, I guess. And she's mainly on Etsy and on her own website. Black woman never shows her face because she's afraid of that. But she's, by all means, she's not lacking for business, but she is constantly stressed out because it takes so much time and money to make these custom things, and she's not able to optimize the production because she doesn't have the capital to be able to go to the next level. And she's making them out of her home. Yeah. She's able to afford a lifestyle for herself and her daughter, but she also, has her husband who is taking care of the bulk of the bills, So I feel like if we get into the nuance of things, like, does this hat lady have health insurance? Is she able to save for retirement? Like, that's the things I'm thinking of. Because my grandmother, she passed before, she could necessarily retire. But I don't think she had a retirement plan. Even though she had all these restaurants, she didn't have a retirement plan. And I know so many entrepreneurs, including myself, that, like, I have a little bit of money in retirement, but nothing like my 9-to-5 friends or my, like, more senior entrepreneur friends. So I just wonder, Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, this is a very nuanced conversation because those are things that, they definitely enhance your quality of life. But people who are successful, do they have those things? And what does that look like?
right? And what is their quality of life? Or, you know, is she, I don't know if she's renting a room from somebody or if she owns a home. I don't know those things, right? But I do know that, you know, it does, I'm in agreement with you. Everything costs so much more to do now, right? And I think as small businesses and as entrepreneurs, you know, the internet is a wonderful thing, but it makes everybody compete on the same level. So if I'm selling a product, I'm not just competing with, you know, my neighbor down the street who is also selling a product. I'm competing with Walmart, with Amazon, with all these places. These companies, these corporations that are machines, right? Amazon, if I ordered something this morning, it's supposed to be here tonight. As a small business, I cannot keep up with that production. Yeah. So in an effort to try and do that, and I've seen this with a friend of mine, a nail polish company, right? She started selling on Amazon. I'm just going to, I'm going to put a lot of money into inventory and then put it on Amazon because they can ship it out faster than me. But then the issue with that, Amazon is not doing promotion for you to sell your brand. Amazon is also going to take a big chunk of the money, so now you have to sell it higher. And there's even more complicated, things that go into that. We're competing with everyone. So like your friend that's making the dresses, if Fashion Nova or Temu sees that design, they can send you 1,000 by Friday. But it's not the same as the custom made that she's making. So yes, everything, there's this level of competition that I don't think existed before when we were starting our businesses, right? You could have a mom and pop shop and people were fine with waiting 15 minutes for you to cook their meal. But hey, if I could get it from Chipotle or these places, or just even telling small businesses like, why aren't you on DoorDash or Uber Eats? Like,
you have a storefront.
I don't have a storefront, or I don't want them to take 50% of my earnings, or, if 100 orders came in for lunch, I couldn't fill them, right? So all of these things just further complicate the process to whereas we are behind before we even really get started.
Wait, I have another question to ask you. Did you see Mark Andreessen, whatever his name is, about how he doesn't do introspection from A16Z, the big tech
I did not see that, but I'll look into it.
Okay, I started watching it and I was like, is this rage bait? Because
it is.
Because his philosophy is just move fast, move fast, move fast. And he is in charge of funding Airbnb, Stripe, Reddit, DoorDash, like all of these things that make us less connected. He is the person, not just him, but he's one of the main people in charge of this. And I'm like, what the fuck have we been doing? Like, I think I didn't have my head stuck in my ass, but I don't think I realized the magnitude or scale at which these startups were shifting human connection and how fucked we are, basically.
Pretty much.
Didn't realize it.
The other question I'm going to ask is, you posed a question on Threads, and I was like, I'm going to say this for the podcast. I'm not going to respond. But you posed the question if, entrepreneurs, as we currently exist, are we actually capitalists? And what does that even look like, right? And I was like, wow, that is a question. Because
no, your average entrepreneur is not a capitalist. I don't believe so.
Explain what you mean by that and what caused you to raise that question.
I think someone asked me. Someone asked me, like, aren't you afraid of being a capitalist? And I was like, no, because I'm not trying to institute legislation to block out competitors, because that's a real thing that's happening. Just like Will Glory, the girl with the 1 billion to 1,000 Black women, she put me on to California just passed a law where these startups have to report how much money they're investing in certain demographics. Now, the founder can say, I'm not disclosing the demographics, and let's just be real, those companies can bully the founders into not disclosing them so that the number that we think 0.34% or 0.5% of venture capital funding is going to Black businesses probably isn't even true, basically. It's probably a lot less than what we've thought. But I think that kind of legislation is being enacted because of how unfair the system is. They're like vertically integrating your systems. Like that's a play taken straight out of Rockefeller's ethos, is to not only own Rockefeller, he was the railroad.
Yeah.
So I think he owned the gas or the diesel for the to power the engines, also the tracks, also the actual train car, also the distribution sites. Like that's crazy. But that's what Amazon does. Amazon Web Services, Amazon
They have
Prime,
medical now.
the trucks. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
How and then we think about even just everyday products. Like Unilever is buying up all of these like mom and pop brands, like Sir Kensington, like the condiment people, the Good Culture yogurt or cottage cheese, whatever it is. I don't know if it's actually Unilever, but you get what I'm saying. Like all these conglomerates are buying up all these small brands because they're vertically integrating it. They're saying, okay, we're going to own Chobani and Good Culture. They're basically just going to be the same brand, just with two different packaging, two different names on it. But we only have to produce it once. That should be illegal, but it's not because they're literally at the White House. They have people, they have hired people that sit at the White House every week and talk to Congress people to funnel money to them to say, hey, don't let that law pass because we need to keep this with us. They literally do that. So are we capitalists? Because we're not doing that.
We're not.
Blondery's not doing that. Blondery was never trying to shut out a competitor. If anything, I was trying to get these bigger competitors to actually see me as a competitor, but they don't because sorry, I'm going on my tangent. Here's another example. Fucking Magnolia Bakery and Milk Bar, they are owned by the same people.
I recently found that out. And I think I was watching something on YouTube and I discovered that. I was like, wait a second. So many companies that we think are competitors are not actually competitors. Like you have to follow the chain of ownership and you will see that these people are the same people.
Yep. So I think I asked the question because I want us to realize really how much small businesses, this is my theory, funnel ideas and creativity to these bigger brands. And then the bigger brands turn around and put a white founder on it and buy it up, basically. That's basically what we do. And I don't know what the solution is because you think about like, even the Obama administration, small businesses. But what are they actually talking about? Like, what are small businesses actually doing for the large ones? Like, why are they even allowing us to play, right? Like, you have to look at what is their motive? And if I've seen the same pattern of my peers, essentially their ideas being stolen. I have another friend who sells the African exfoliating net sponges. One of the first people on TikTok to be selling it, still killing it on TikTok. But Hani, the new brand HANNI, they now have one. And my friend, of course, because they're smart. They're very smart Black women. They bought Hani's. And like I use my friend's African exfoliating net every day. I have multiple of them. I touched Hani's and immediately I'm like, this is not an African exfoliating net. I don't know what this is. And it's so cheap and they're selling it for a little bit more than what my friends are selling it for. But my friends can't even get around like a Series A round of funding.
Right.
And they've been around for much longer than Hani.
Yeah.
What are we doing? I'm not trying to discourage anyone from not going into business. As I'm working on this, stay tuned to my YouTube. Right. I think we all have to come up with a solution to protect our own ideas, protect our IP, and also get this money. And if that means, like Will Glory is saying, sue these motherfuckers. We should probably start suing them, yes.
We should sue more than we do. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, this is definitely not to discourage anyone who's starting a business, but you have to be aware of the environment that you're stepping into if you are in business or starting a business. And I think we have to start thinking about business a lot differently, which you are talking about on YouTube. So again, in the comments, I'm putting a link to YouTube, her Substack, Threads. She is having the conversation. And as you can probably tell, she's not afraid of engaging in the conversation. So go ahead and comment, let her know your thoughts.
And I'm about to get even more bold. I'm about to be like on some other shit. Like as soon as I move, I feel like it's going to be like,
I love
in a good way.
And that's what I want to talk about next, about transitioning, right? So you had this store in New York, shut down the store. You are also shutting down the business, I believe, and you are leaving the country. What triggered this pivot in your life, and why is now the time for you to do it?
I always said I was going to retire in Mexico after I sold my business. I didn't sell my business, but I decided to still give that to myself because the effort was still there. The tears were real. The sweat was real. The blood was real. The investment was very real. So it doesn't mean that I cannot still give that to myself. I'm going to start in Mexico. And then we'll see. I already booked Thailand for 40 plus days in December.
Yes.
Like, if where's home, right? I'm going to be going to Guatemala while I'm in Mexico, Panama, Belize, explore the world so can I have a home outside of the United States? I don't know. I have no clue. I'm tapping into my ancestors to make that happen for me. And I think why now is just, why not now? I'm in New York. I could stay here. Like, I'm not going to say I can't afford to be here because I have a pretty good situation here, but I don't want to. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go and try something different. And I can keep more money in my pocket. And I can work on getting you guys this information without having to run back to work because I have to maintain my lifestyle in New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. So you'll be traveling, you'll be exploring, you are going to be doing all of the things. What about, you talked earlier about entrepreneurship being for you. You've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and it seems like you are in a bit of a liminal space trying to, between entrepreneurship and maybe retirement. So what do you imagine this phase of your life to look like, and what is guiding you in this phase?
Ooh, instinct is guiding me. Leaning more into my instincts. They've never steered me wrong. It's only when I second guess things is when I got caught up. But I think as I continue to move forward, I already have 2 ideas. So my travel is going to be research, essentially, for what I'm thinking would feel natural for me. I just gave the analogy on this retreat I went on, is like, I'm waiting to get pregnant again because, and I don't want to have kids, not with a real baby. I'm talking about with the idea of, yeah, I like, do you know how it is? Like, you get pregnant with an idea and then you bring it you birth it, and then you raise it. Having a business is such a beautiful experience. So I'm just waiting for the universe, God, whoever you believe in, to make me pregnant again with an idea that I feel comfortable bringing into the world. I have 2 ideas. I've always kept a running list of businesses I would explore after I sold my business. These 2 ideas were not on that list, but they've come to me over the past few months, and I see the need. I see where it could fit in, and I'm just like, let me go see if I can make it work. Let me go see the manufacturing and all the things. Let me go see, and then we'll go from there.
I'm curious if you are done with the restaurant world.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, over it. Okay.
I don't think even with Will Glory and like what she's talking about, like if Mackenzie Scott was like, hey, I'll give you $500K or $2 million to run this bakery, I would have to really think about that. I really would, because now that I've been able to step outside of food industry, I see that there's so many other industries that have better margins. Like I want better margins and less work.
Yeah.
And I think the only way I can do that with food is co-packing, which means adding a whole bunch of additives, and that doesn't align with who I am as a person. So I would rather work on a product or a product line that I don't have to kill y'all to put out into the world, basically. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, so are you going to travel when you get to your sabbatical?
I am going as many places as I can go. Okay. I've been looking at this TSA situation. Don't have to sleep at the airport to get through security, but I'm going.
Yeah, don't worry about it, because this is the thing: when God makes that way for you, all of those things will like either not be an issue, you'll be fine, or it'll be an issue that you could deal with it. Like it's not going to be a thing.
Right.
When God makes that way for you, it's going to make it very clear that that's going to be your path. People keep sending me stuff like when this thing happened in Mexico and Puerto Vallarta. I'm like, hey, I'm not going. I'm sorry.
I'll think about when I get there.
Yeah, God told me. Plus, I'm going to be all the way on the other side of Mexico. Right. So I'm not even, not that I think that there's space to be held for the people who are impacted by that. But I also think like we can't psych ourselves out basically and look
can't.
at the media and say, this is why I shouldn't go. Like there's so many people, I have to put on my protection sometimes when I post online because there are a lot of people who don't want me to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even know me. Like why do you not want me to go so bad? It's challenging a norm. And if I challenge that norm and I'm a Black woman, I'm plus size, I'm dark skinned, and I'm able to challenge that norm, what does that say if they're not challenging it?
Yeah, it's them confronting themselves. I say that all the time. I'm gonna let you finish that with your
that's
point.
it. That's it.
I don't know what that has to do with me, but people are constantly projecting all sorts of things. You know, people have it's their mindset that there is one way of doing things, and that is the way that I'm currently doing it, and I can't really see outside of that. So if you're doing something different, I'm going to tell you all the reasons why it's not going to work. But it goes back to what you said, instinct. Like I say a lot on this podcast, you just know when it's time to do something different. You just know when it's time to pivot. And sometimes you have to be forced into that you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this. And then life will just start to fall apart on you. Things will just happen. Like I was saying, I was like, you know, I've always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then I was like, no, but I have, you know, I convinced myself and, you know, friends and family convinced me too, you got a good job. This is a good situation for you. You're making great pay. You have a lot of flexibility. I was like, yeah. And child, the job left me. The company completely collapsed and it happened all of a sudden. And I was like, okay, here we are and we're moving. So I always say, like, you know when you're supposed to move, you know when you're supposed to pivot. And once you start moving in that direction, it just feels right. Things just start aligning for you in ways that you didn't necessarily plan for. And not to say that it's going to be easy. You're going to have some bumps in the road and some hiccups. Because, for example, when I moved to Chicago, like my luggage, for whatever reason, got lost. My flight had got canceled. I ended up taking a different flight. My luggage didn't get here until a couple of days later. I ended up getting here, right? And all is well now. And all is well now. I did want to ask specifically about, you know, your journey. You're in transition. You decided to leave the U.S. What are you excited about, and what do you have some reservations about in making this transition in your life?
I'm excited about the newness of it all and falling in love with Mexico even more. I'm excited to get out this basement. I'm in a basement apartment. Never lived in a basement before. I have 3 windows, which do give me a little bit of light. All this light right now is artificial, but I did not realize how much of an impact that has on your mental health.
Yeah.
When you're like not able to, because I went from living in the 17th floor overlooking the Hudson River to trying to save my business, so let me downsize.
Yeah.
So I've been here for about a year and I'm like, oh, it's time to go. It's time to go. Even my dog, that's why he was barking. I put him in the window. I went and put him, he's right now sitting on the ledge in the window because he's even impacted by the lack of like expansiveness, right? So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for new community, like-minded community. I'm sure I'm going to meet people who have even more radical ideas than I do because you have to think about the type of people who move out of the US, they a little crazy in a good way. So I'm excited about that. I am nervous. You know, I think the tension in the US between the USA and Mexico, or really any country, is real. It seems to mostly be reflected online from what I'm hearing from other people who are traveling and moving throughout the country. Is like, yeah, like it's very normal when you get there, but online, if you're vocal about your move, you're going to get the trolls that say, stay in your country, you dumb American. Yeah. And I think what's also interesting, and I talked about this, is like, I've never been in a space where I was first an American and then Black. Have you ever been? I don't think I've ever experienced that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that. So I'm excited to, I guess, experience that. Like, oh, first I have to be an American, not a Black person? Okay. I feel like I can deal with that maybe a little bit more because I'm not that kind of I can just say that. I'm not that kind of American. And then some of my Black friends have said, just say you're from Africa or from the Caribbean because they don't know the difference. So I might use that as well if the tension is a little high. But
do you speak Spanish?
I'm working on it. I take classes about once a week. I just jumped back in actually yesterday. My teacher was like, where have you been? I'm like, girl, I've been busy packing. But yeah, I'm taking classes once a week with a private tutor. She's great on this app called italki. You should look into it. But yeah, I'm just excited to be in a new environment. I've been in New York now for 10 years. Love New York down. I would love to come back one day. I would love to continue to be back and forth. But it is time for me to do something different. Okay. Yeah.
I lied. I actually have more questions. My question is, while you're on this journey, when will you know that you are ready to move forward into the next phase? Because you say you have these ideas. Now, you sound a little different from me, because when I have an idea, I need to act on it. I gotta be moving. I gotta put some things together because I need to see how it's gonna form before I fully commit. But it seems like you are just taking your time. You're allowing these ideas to marinate. So how will you know, okay, now I'm ready to jump back in?
The stars will align, I think, in a way. And I think there's a power to learning sales so that you can be visible online so that people can find you while you're building, right? So I think not everyone needs to be, talking to the camera. I do think it's good, but no, not everyone needs to do that. I do think that because I'll be sharing along the way what I'm learning, things will probably naturally just fall into place. Like, just like with the business, like how I told you, I was just already shipping my products back home. So now it's just going to be, I'm traveling the world, I'm in this country, I'm meeting with this kind of person, and I learned this, and people will be like, maybe you should do that, I don't know. And I learned from experience that it's best for me to go this way. Do you know your human design type?
I do. I'm a manifestor.
Okay, so I'm a projector. So I have to wait for the invitation.
Yeah.
So I cannot. You probably would do really well in what you're saying, that strategy that you have. Yep. What is your strategy actually for a manifestor?
Yeah, so I am a splenic manifestor. I'm a starter. I have to inform. That is what I do. So, when I get an idea, I'm like, hey, this is what I'm working on. I start that journey. I'm constantly sharing my journey. That works for me.
Okay. So, yeah I feel like my strategy is waiting for the invitation. Meaning people have to come to me and ask me for my opinion.
Yeah.
So I try not to, I'm learning the balance of sharing what I'm working on, but also sharing it to the people who want to hear it.
Yeah.
And my thoughts on people who want to hear what I have to say. So YouTube has been really great for that because they can just click off what they don't want to hear. And Substack, you have to subscribe to hear what I have to say. I'm learning that. Yeah, I'm just excited to do something different and to figure out what's next for me. And if it just becomes I'm a freaking travel creator, that's fine too. That's also a life I feel like I can get behind. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so last and final question as we wrap up here. As people are listening to this episode, as people come in contact with you and your story, what are you hoping they take away?
Be bold, advocate for yourself, and I think never let yourself or others talk you out of your destiny, talk you out of your spot. People will give you advice on something that they wouldn't even do themselves,
Right.
So you have to learn to trust yourself first. Also, I have one thing I want to say to you, Brandy.
Yes.
I want to apologize for something. So you posted, I forget, and maybe you'll remember more than me, but you posted something about your crowdfunding and raising $100,000 so that you can take your year sabbatical. And you said something about it. Maybe you said it, or maybe I said it, that it seems like people will only donate when it's like a tragedy. Did you say that, or did I say that?
I said that.
And I said, and I agreed with you, but here's the thing. That was my experience. That doesn't have to be yours. And I think as I'm watching you raise this money, I'm like, no, she's going to get it. Because one, you're very consistent. I see you multiple times a day posting on Threads and Substack, and you come at it from different angles. You're like windmilling. You're like, I'm going to get it from everybody. Everybody's going to get this message. And I love that. And I think that because of my experience crowdfunding, it was always from a place of urgency and like, I need this to happen or my place is going to shut down. And that's the message I had to constantly reinforce. But I think you're utilizing your strengths in a really smart way to attack the goal that you have. And what I mean by that is like, you are constantly on my feed. And I think that means a lot. That's going to take you so far.
Yeah.
So just keep going. And I know sometimes it may not feel Like, you're going to get there. Can you extend the deadline? I saw that there was a date.
I think I can.
Great.
I think I can, but you can only extend it, I think, maybe once or twice or something like that. But yeah.
Great. You're going to get it. It doesn't matter how long it takes. You're going to get it. And you just have to keep trying different angles. Because I'm telling you, I see it. I see it for you. I see the story. I see the storyline.
Yeah.
And just one outlet needs to pick this story up.
Yeah.
Because that will be what it does. You know, that'll take it there. So just keep going.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
For planting that seed, because that's not real. That was just only my experience. That does not have to be.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think, you know, crowdfunding is hard. It's being very vulnerable, because you were saying, like, I am at your will. I want to do this thing, but I need your help. And that's a very hard thing to do. So yes, I am committed to the process. I'm committed to seeing it through. I already know this is going to happen. You know, it's just a matter of when. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yes, you got this.
I do want to thank you for your time. I do also want to plug, because I watched it and took some really good notes. You have a course that is available for free on YouTube for anyone who has a business or is in a process of pivoting in their career or thinking about doing business. It is, I believe, 5 parts, a 5-part series on exactly how to do that. And it is so well done. You're going to want to watch it again and again, because she's not just giving you theory. These are actual practical steps of what you can do right now. And, you know, the videos are short, easily digestible, and you can watch all 5 videos and then have a plan for yourself about moving forward. So I do want to plug that, as well as I've been mentioning in this episode, I'm going to put the Substack, I'm going to put the YouTube, and everywhere for you to follow and support and follow her journey as she goes into the next phase of her life and career. Was there anything that I did not ask you that you wanted to say?
Also support Brandy's move or sabbatical.
Yes.
And she's so humble, but we need to get this girl out of here. So I want us all to have that experience. And if it just means we're supporting Brandy now, and then we're supporting someone else later, you know, like if we have to move like that, that's how we have to move. But I think we all need to, and it's not about running away. We're not running away. We're going away to gather more information so we can come back and be more informed as we start and run these businesses.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. Y'all make sure that you tap in with her and stay connected. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
I'm going to make my little donation. I got a little money in my account today. I don't have money all the time, but I got some today.